Hello friends, and welcome to Savannah Knits, my knitting podcast where I talk all about the things that I'm knitting that are bringing me joy. My name is Savannah and I live in Utah in the United States with my family, and I'm a stay-at-home mom and I love to knit and read. Although you wouldn't be able to tell that I like to read because there used to be bookshelves right here, but we are building built-in bookshelves at the moment, so that's why it's a sad white empty wall. But hopefully by the next podcast episode it will be a beautiful new bookcase. I have a full podcast episode today. I feel like right now I just love making podcast episodes when I have finished objects to show. Otherwise, I feel like they're too boring for me to make. But when I have a lot of finished objects, I get so excited about telling all of you about all the things that I've been making, and that usually means that I've casted a lot of new things on. So those are also fun to talk with you guys about. So yeah, that's just what has been going on right now. But before we get into it, I would love to ask you guys a question of the day so I can get to know you better. And I want to know what's a pattern that's on your fall to knit list, or if you're in the southern hemisphere, what's a pattern that you want to make this spring. So let me know in the comments. I would love to hear. Let's just get into it. So the first finished object I want to kind of breeze by a little bit. I made the July tie by Pam Allen, and this is made with Cascade Yarn Heritage 6 in the color Pine right here. And I used a 3.75 millimeter needle. It's basically a long garter stitch scarf basically, but you do have some, shaping so that you can get the skinnier part on one end and the thick part on the other end. And then at the end you fold it in half and sew it together. Oh no, I just noticed that my sewing job wasn't very good because it's now unraveling, so I'll have to fix that. I was pretty skeptical that this would look good with it being a knitted tie, but as you can see by the picture, it looks great, and I think that I think it turned out really nice. It was really easy to make, really fast, just doing garter stitch just back and forth. And this is a gift knit for my second brother. He wanted a tie for Christmas. So thanks to him, I now have a really good tie pattern that my husband also wants one now. So yeah, I will have to make that for him next. Not next, but sometime in the near future. I also found that my gauge for the garter stitch was a little bit big, and I know that my brother would want more of a skinnier tie than a thicker tie, and so I did shorten it quite a bit so I could stretch it to be longer, and therefore by stretching it longer it would become more skinny. So that's what I did for that. And there is a lot of growing room in the pattern. She says to knit to a certain length, but then when blocking, stretch it to an even greater length, so that I feel like then the tie won't become too long over time. But it is a tie that you tie, so you could make it as long as or as short as you want, obviously, when you're tying it. I started this on August 25th and finished it on September 7th. So it took me 2 weeks and only half a skein, so 50 grams of yarn. So I think that makes a pretty good test knit. My next finished object is what I'm wearing. Sorry to keep you hanging, but this is the Miles shirt jacket by Ozetta. I made this in Iztex Lopi, which was given to me by my parents when they went to Iceland. They very nicely brought some back for me, and this is in the color Oatmeal Heather, which is a grayish brownish. leans more brown to me, but I like how it's not fully brown. It could go kind of either way. I think it's a great neutral that will go with literally anything, which is the point of making a jacket with this yarn. Last year I made the port jacket and I wore that almost every single day last year, and so I knew that I wanted another jacket in a more brown color. So I decided to do the mile shirt jacket for this, and I'm so glad that I did. I made a size large and I used a 5mm for the body, 4mm for the ribbings, and then a 2.75mm needle for the button band and the collar. So for this, I did not use the recommended yarn. So my row gauge is a little bit off, and so I followed the measurements in the pattern rather than the specific rows. But with Ozetta, it's always very easy to adjust that because she gives measurements for every single place she can in the pattern. So that was an easy fix. I did shorten the body by about an inch just because I am a little bit shorter and I didn't want the jacket to be too long. And other than that, I followed the rest of the pattern except for the button band and the collar. And from the port jacket, I knew that I really liked the vertical button band that she has you do. It's still a ribbed button band, but it's knit vertically, so it kind of looks like a double knit button band, which I love because double knit button bands take a long time. And then I didn't really love the collar of the mile shirt jacket. I thought it looked a little bit awkward if it was up, and then I didn't know if I wanted to make it down. So I knew that I also loved the collar of the port jacket, so I just decided to sub in the port jacket collar, which is very easy to do. The stitch counts were almost exactly the same from pattern to pattern because they do use a similar gauge, similar yarn. So it was totally easy for me to do that. And I really like how it looks. I feel like it looks a little bit like a bomber jacket, and yeah, I just really enjoy the look of it, the more minimalistic look. With the button band though, I found that it scrunched and pulled up the front portion of the body a lot, and so when I blocked it, I did have to aggressively block the button band to be able to get it to be the front the same length as the back, which also made, so I had to stretch a lot of the button band on the bottom half of the sweater, but not as much on the top half. And so when I went to sew on my buttons, the distance from this buttonhole up here to the next buttonhole was way too short in comparison to the other buttons. And I think, yeah, just from stretching with blocking, it just turned out not to be even. And so I think that's totally fine though. I didn't do the top button and I just sewed the buttonhole closed, and now it just has 3 buttons. And I am totally happy with that. With my port jacket, I do sometimes button the top one, but pretty rarely. And so for this jacket, I'm totally fine if I don't need, you know, the top button done. And if it is really cold outside, that'll give me an opportunity to wear a scarf or a shawl over this. So yeah, I'm happy with the 3 buttons, and I wanted an odd number anyways for the buttons. For some reason, that was just in my head. I just felt it would be weird to have 4. But 3 sounds like a better number to me. I don't know. That's just one of those things that it means nothing, and everyone else that did 4 buttons, it looks totally fine. But for my brain, 3 was feeling better to me. So yeah, I'm really happy that I decided to do that. And this was also my first time doing pockets, and I did not enjoy the process. I knit them as the gauge swatch before the project. Before I even started the project, Ozetta suggests that you do that, and I think that's a very smart decision because you're going to have to block the pockets anyways, so you might as well use them for your gauge swatch. So I'm really glad that I made them beforehand, but sewing them on was a little bit fiddly and it took a long time. Ozetta does have a great tutorial video for sewing them on that I followed, but still I ran out of patience, and also placing the pockets was a little bit hard because my row gauge was so off. If my row gauge was perfectly on and I followed her exact body measurements, body length, then I could have followed what the pattern said of exactly where to put the pocket. But since I did those modifications, since my row gauge was off, I kind of just had to place the pocket where I thought it would look good. And I think I probably should have gone a little bit higher on the pockets, because after I put the pockets on, I did get the bottom part of this, where this pocket ends right here, and then you go up to the curved hem. I got some flipping up, so like the hem would kind of go like this. And so I steamed blocked it and tried to just press it flat. And now I think that it's okay. Hopefully that stays true over time, because I do not want to redo the pockets. I don't want to mess with them again. I want to be done with them. So yeah, hopefully it works out. But other than that, I absolutely love how this turned out. I can see myself wearing this a ton this winter. I love the color. I love Let Lopey yarn. I have found that it is a tiny bit itchy around my neck, but as I wear it over time, it softens up a ton. And there are some days that like I'm more overstimulated than normal and I can't wear it for very long. But then there's other days where it just feels so comforting to have this yarn around me, like just so, I don't know. I just really love this yarn. It feels natural. But yeah, and I feel like I'm always wearing this over something, usually over a sweater, so there's not a lot of skin contact going on with this jacket anyways. It's also perfect for layering over sweaters because I won't get too hot, because it is a pretty thin layer with the yarn, and I would say it's pretty breathable. If I wear a t-shirt and put this jacket over it and go outside on a windy day, I can feel the wind coming through the jacket. But usually that's not a problem in the winter when I'm already wearing a sweater, and then I put this on top just for extra warmth and I'm totally fine. So I am ready for fall weather and coldness. Please, Utah, get cold soon. I think next week we're supposed to have a couple of days of rain and like 60-degree weather, and I'm very, very excited because I want to wear all of these wonderful sweaters. I'm craving the sweater weather. So yeah, one of my favorite projects I've made. Definitely will get a lot of wear out of it. Very happy. Thank you to Mom and Dad for providing me this beautiful yarn. I started this on September 2nd and finished it on the 22nd. So it took me 20 days, which was very fast, but I think it helped that it was a bigger gauge. My row gauge was also bigger. And so yeah, this really just flew off the needles and I had a lot of fun making it. My last finished object is another gift knit. I made the basket weave bag by Irene Lynn, and I used Cascade Yarns Cantata, something like that, Cantata maybe, solids in the color brown. And I used a 3.75 millimeter needle. And look at how cute this turned out. I am obsessed. It's so cute. You've got the basket weave stitch, you've got some twisted rib on the bottom and the twisted rib straps, and yeah, I love how this turned out. I made a size medium for the bag. It comes in a small, a medium, and a large size. And the size medium, I used 2 balls of the Cantata solids, so a little under 200 grams. This is a gift knit for my sister-in-law who said she wanted a bag for Christmas. And so I chose the cutest bag I could find, and yeah, very, very happy with this. I know some people on Ravelry have added lining to their bags, and I think it would benefit from that just because there are holes in the basket weave, but I am against sewing. I do not like sewing. I took a sewing class in high school, and the only reason I got my A was because I crocheted for extra credit. I did not enjoy sewing. It just doesn't click with my brain. I am not patient enough for it at this point in time. Maybe in the future I'll get into it, who knows. But yeah, I will not be sewing in a lining for this bag. She can just use it as is. I made no modifications to this pattern. I just followed it exactly as written. And I started it on September 4th and finished it on the 21st. So it took me 2 weeks and 3 days. With that bag, that concludes all of my gift knitting that I have to do for Christmas. Not that I have to do it, but you know what I mean. I finished all of the gift knitting for my parents and my siblings this year. I'm very proud of myself because it's only September. I still want to make that tie for my husband Nathan, and then I would love to make my boys some mittens and hats, but I am not in any rush to make those. So now that all the gift knits are done, I am going to be making some accessories for myself that I've been looking forward to making for months now. The first one that I started, it is from this book, Lakeside Stitches by Rania Hakaleto, which I have talked about so many times. This is my favorite knitting book by far. I have lost track of how many patterns I've made from this book. I am making the Alku hat, which she says was the pattern that made her want to write a book, or it was the first pattern she created for this book. And I am using Capella Luna Fibers Simple DK in the color Fairy, which is left over from a sweater project. And so I've done some of the ribbing. I have about 2 inches left because it's a double folded brim. I have not been alternating skeins, and I think I probably should have because you can see some spiraling of the color a little bit, but I don't think you'll be able to tell with it folded in half with the brim. And then once I start the cable portion of the hat, I think I will start alternating skeins. I should have done it from the beginning, but I wanted to take a chance. Learned my lesson, but I'm not gonna rip back at all. I don't think you'll be able to notice that much, especially when the ribbing is like stretched out on your head. And if you can, it just adds to the uniqueness of the hat, right? So yeah, there's not much else to say about this. I started it on September 21st, so I've been working on it for 4 days. My second work in progress is a spur of the moment cast on that I could not wait. If you have been watching my podcast for a while, you know that I usually only work on 2 projects at a time. I usually have a garment project and then an accessory project. And when one finishes, then I just start another. And for some reason, that doesn't apply to Colorwork mittens for me, because last year I did the same thing where I just casted on some Colorwork mittens and it was my 3rd project. So I wanted some Colorwork mittens for myself because last year I made my mom the Selbu mittens from the book Norwegian Knitting Designs 90 Years Later, I believe. And I really wanted to make myself some Colorwork mittens because they seem so warm and also very beautiful. And so I found this pattern. It's called West of the Moon Mittens by Inger Berg. And this pattern is based off of the Norwegian folk tale of East of the Sun, West of the Moon, which is my absolute favorite folktale ever. I will read any book that is inspired by that folktale. I love it so much. My favorite book with that folktale in it, if you're interested, is East by Edith Pateau. That book I read as a maybe middle schooler, and it is part of my soul. So when I saw these mittens, for the sentimentality of it, I wanted them. I also just think they're beautiful. So I am using some leftover Drops Lima, and I have started on the kind of cuff design, and these are the colors Petrol and Off-White. And yeah, absolutely love how it's turning out so far. There's also a DK weight, so it's knitting up really fast and it's really thick and squishy. Drops Lima also has some alpaca in it, so I did size down on my needle size. So I'm using a 2.75 millimeter needle because I know with alpaca that the mittens will grow. So I think the gauge you're supposed to be getting around 6. She has 2 gauges in the pattern actually. She has a 24 stitch gauge and a 28 stitch gauge, I believe. And which 24 stitches, that's 6 stitches per inch, and I'm at about 6.5 or 7 stitches per inch. So I think that that will be perfect. I did try this on and it fits fine. So hopefully it doesn't grow out too much, but I don't think it will. Hopefully not. But yeah, I will just keep chipping away at these. I also think that Colorwork mittens are perfect for a scrappy project because you usually only need 50 grams of yarn for each color for 2 mittens, and I think that they're really fun to make and also really good for gift knitting. So I don't know how much time I will have, but I like to imagine myself using all of my scraps to make Colorwork mittens and just having a stash of ready gifts for people, because socks I feel like are hard to give away because everyone's foot is so different, and it's really hard for me to find my sock that fits my size, and I've made so many socks. But mittens, I feel like you could get away with one size for most people, and they're really beautiful, and you don't have to wash them that much, so they don't have to worry about washing them that much compared to socks. So I like to imagine myself just being the Colorwork mitten girl of just making them a lot during the winter time and being able to gift them to special people that I love. But I always say that and then make maybe 1 pair because they do take a lot of work, but I'm just finding myself really enjoying the process. So I started these on September 22nd, so I've been working on them for 3 days. My last work in progress is a Colorwork sweater. I am making the Gleniff Sweater by Tanya Barley, and I found this sweater through Lovely Day Knits here on YouTube. Definitely check out her channel if you haven't already. She's the most wonderfully kind person. I also thought that this pattern would be perfect for fall. It has a lot of fall motifs on it. So when 96 Yarns reached out to me and asked to send me some skeins with no strings attached at all, I of course said yes. Who would say no to some free yarn, especially for me, because I really do love hand-dyed superwash yarn. It's just one of my great loves in knitting. I find it really inspiring to knit with other people's art. So she let me pick out 3 skeins from her autumn collection, and you guys, I love this color so much. So this is in her original sock base and it's called Amber, and the depth of color is just fantastic. I think this color is going to look very good on me, and I think it goes with the Gleniff very well. And I had some extra drops Fable in stash from my Doppio sweater. So I have this in the color Wheat, and so together I think that they will go together perfectly. I wanted to start this a couple days ago, but I did not have the needle for some reason. So I have a cheap interchangeable kit from Amazon that are just aluminum needles that I've been using for a long time, and they have served me just fine, and I would rather use ChiaoGoo needles when I can. So I have a lot of ChiaoGoo fixed circulars just because I wanted to buy them as I go instead of buying the interchangeable set all at once. So between my fixed circulars and then my aluminum set that has shorter cords, I've been able to make do. But my aluminum set doesn't have a 3mm needle. It just skips from 2.75 to 3.25 millimeters. And I really needed that 3mm needle of the shorter cord length to start out. So I had to wait for my needle to come. But before I show you my progress, I do want to show you the swatch, if I can find it in my bag. Here it is. I did the swatch wrong, but it told me what I needed to know, so it's fine. So here's my swatch. I did some stockinette and then I did the Colorwork on top, and I am in love. The reason why I did this wrong, well, I don't know why I did it wrong. I just wasn't thinking, but in the pattern, you actually have the, she has this white color as the background and then the main color as like the contrast color. So you have that strip of white along the yoke with the colorful one as the motif. So I should have switched to the white right here and then worked the leaf in the amber color, but yeah, didn't realize I was doing that. But that's okay. I think it will be close enough and I am happy with my gauge. So I decided to just go for it. And I also wanted to check how it would look with superwash yarn. I did just finish a superwash Colorwork knit, and it definitely doesn't block out as evenly as 100% wool does, like a merino wool or another kind of wool. So I did want to check that, but I think it will be fine. It's also fingering weight, so it's not like the stitches are gonna be huge anyways. And so yeah, I think it will be great. I have this much, not very much. I am working on the short rows right now. It is knit top down, and I'm not alternating skeins yet just because I find it to be annoying when I'm doing short rows. And then after the short rows, you basically go right into the chart, and so I will just be using the white as the background color and then this amber as the contrast color. And I don't think I need to alternate skeins for it being the contrast color. You won't really be able to tell if there's pooling because it's going to be in motifs anyways. But when I get to the body down lower and you just have that lice stitch of the white along the body, then I will alternate skeins for this yarn just so that I make sure that it's evenly distributed and it looks beautiful. Do the yarn justice. I'm just so extremely happy about this yarn, and I am very, very grateful to 96 Yarns for sending it to me. If you would like to check out her autumn colors, I will have her shop linked below. Again, it was sent to me with no strings attached, so I'm not getting paid to promote it or anything. I am just very grateful, and it's a yarn that I'm really enjoying. So you guys get to hear about it. I started this on September 23rd, so it's been on my needles for 2 days. I have one quick acquisition. I went to a yarn store last weekend with my family and I had some money saved up, so I treated myself to a sweater quantity of this yarn Nouveau, which is a Utah dyer, so I love to support her when I can. And it is this beautiful color called Cold Creek, and it's in her twist sock base. And I was looking for a blue yarn, and I think this one is perfect. I'm thinking I might want to make the Firth by the Creabea. I originally had different yarn for that sweater, but I think this one would really shine with the ribbing and just having a lot of it just be stockinette, so I can really show off this yarn. Obviously alternate skeins as well. So yeah, I am excited to cast this on. I think maybe in January is my soft plan for that. And then a quick reading and watching update. I finished reading Royal Assassin by Robin Hobb. It's the second book in the Farseer trilogy. And I did like it, and I'm reading the third book right now. I feel like if you have if you have played or heard of Skyrim, the video game, this series feels exactly like Skyrim. There's a lot of maybe slow traveling parts, just like in the video game, but the world of Skyrim and all of the quests and the politics and the different places of the world, of the map, it feels so similar to this series. So if you're craving those vibes, definitely check out the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb. And then as for watching, I have been watching The Great British Bake Off as episodes have been coming out every Friday. Really enjoying that. And then I have also been watching season 11 of Alone, which is the latest season. So that is what I've been reading and watching lately. If you also read or enjoy watching different things, let me know in the comments and I can get more recommendations. I would love to hear what you guys are into media-wise as well. With that, I think that that is everything for today. So thank you guys so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. And I hope you guys are knitting what is bringing you joy. I'll see you next time. Bye.